Hi, this is Melissa from the Messy Bun Mamas podcast, and I want to talk to you today about Anchor. This app, let me be real honest, is basically lifesaver. Um, I got the random idea, on a Tuesday that I wanted to try and hit up my mom friends and try and get a podcast going, and Anchor has made it so smooth. I downloaded this app, at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, got my plug and play microphone, and we were able to go in, record. We had a high quality recording, and it turned out great. And I didn't have to take any of the tutorials or anything like that. So if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's a safe and easy way to make a podcast. It's also free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, which is amazing. So I don't have to feel like a failure if nobody listens to me talk. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. For example, we just recorded our first episode, and I was already able to go in and remove something really stupid that I said. So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, this is Melissa. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is a page that you can go to and give us a monthly donation as you listen to our podcast, and you can get bonus content such as getting episodes early, getting bonus episodes, and a bunch of other things. Eventually, we'd like to do some t-shirts and so much more. So if you're interested, no pressure, you can go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/messybunmamas podcast. Again, that's patreon.com/messybunmamas podcast. In a fitting manner, there is a coffee membership, a cold brew membership, and an espresso membership. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on that page, and thank you so much for listening.
Messy Bun Mamas. I'm Joe. I'm John. I am Malcolm.
Hello. Welcome to episode 5. When the baby blues don't cut it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to talk about this one. It's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So yeah. Let's get into the mama moments, Michelle.
Let's start with the mama moments. So my mama moment for the week is actually, it was a very funny situation. Of course, Joe just keeps me like rolling all the time
On the regular.
with, like, stuff that just comes out of his mouth. But we were on the couch cuddling, and cuddling / being body slammed, as boys show. That's how they show their affection.
It's true.
And he all of a sudden stopped, and he looked at me just very serious, and he said, "Mom, I'm gonna push on your belly now to make another baby come out."
Are you now?
And I tried very hard when he's being serious to not laugh, but this time I belly chuckled like for minutes. And he looked at me like I was just nuts, and he goes, "Mom, is that okay?" I mean, at least he was asking me, "Is that okay? I'm going to push on your belly and make another baby come out." And so upon further discussion, he also disclosed that the baby was going to just pop out of my mouth as well. So it was it was an interesting conversation. He was very upset when I told him that it just was not going to work that way, and he did try to push on my belly and the baby did not come out. So there was a lot of disappointment on his end, but definitely my mom moment for the week. Just the cuteness that came right out of that kid's head.
Man.
I'm like, I really wish it worked that way, buddy.
Right? That would make life. Yeah, we're just gonna not finish my sentence.
Right. I understand. So what about your mom moment for the week?
So Malcolm is 3.5. He will be 4 in 4 months. Okay. I have for sure struggled with potty training with both of the boys. They have definitely given me a run for my money. But Malcolm this week has went poop on the potty every day.
Yes!
Right!
High five him, mama!
I was so excited. And it's not even like, you know when you're potty training and you're just like, do you have to go potty? Do you have to go potty? Do you have to go potty?
Right.
No, he like went into the bathroom, pooped all by himself, and then like ran out of the bathroom with poop dripping down his legs. Right. I went poop on the potty! So, there's that like, oh, what are you doing to me? Mixed with like, yay! But more so, yay.
Right. Honey, get the bleach. Yay, good job!
Right? Well, and then it's like, he went places 3 times with me this week, and he either wore underwear or pull-ups that were both dry when we got home. So, he is... he's out and about with daddy today. So in underwear, we'll see.
I want to say that that was about the time that Joe potty trained, because Joe potty trained right near the beginning of the pandemic. He was in May, and he turned 4 in September. So it's about the same time. Like all of a sudden he just decided it was cool to use the potty and not make mom have to.
It is. I'm telling you. I hate it. It's the worst.
It really is. And I really appreciate all the people that are just like, no, you got to go hardcore, just be at it, consistent. But like, I would literally have to drag him into the bathroom, like kicking and screaming. And I'm like, I am not going to do this. This is just going to make us both miserable.
I can't tell you how many times, like, John and I had throw down fights in the bathroom about him not going potty on the toilet. Like, I can't even, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It was definitely not anything. It was not anything that I wish to relive with my other children. Because like, why would you want to do that?
Right.
No.
That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. And so it was the beginning of the pandemic. So we went and bought like 4 boxes of diapers. And then like 2 weeks later, he was fully
Of course trained. He was.
I was like, oh, you're such a jerk right now.
I mean, thank you. But also you're a jerk. Right. Because that's life.
Right.
But yeah, he went poop on the potty. So,
nice.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel. But Malcolm really wants to go to school in the fall.
Oh, that's cute.
And he actually wanted to go to school like this year. But like 3K is not publicly funded, so it would have to be like, basically daycare costs.
Right.
Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't have time for that. No. So, he knows that he's going to school in the fall if he's potty trained. But the thing is like he went poop on the potty. He's like, okay, I can go to school now. And it's like, not really.
Right. You gotta wait a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit longer. So yeah. That was my mama moment.
You should really record his excitement and enthusiasm about going to school.
Yeah.
To play later in life.
You mean?
Do you remember when?
Yeah, right. John was that way too, though. Like, he was really excited to go to school, and now he hates it. So,
Yeah.
but I shouldn't say he hates it now. He hated it for sure. He hated it last year.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting thing to record it and play. But honestly, Malcolm's such like a happy
He's
kid.
so easygoing.
I don't think he's gonna dislike school. Even if he's horrible academically, or if he like doesn't have a lot of friends, he's just so easygoing. I think he'll be happy wherever you place him.
I imagine he would be a lot like Dan, where he's just like, here I am.
Yep.
We're gonna enjoy life right now.
We're just gonna go through life, be me, and be happy. Like, that's Malcolm 100%.
I didn't pass that. It's okay.
Yeah. I really like my pen today, so we're good.
He is such an easygoing kid.
Yeah, so I just, that's why with the potty thing, it's just like, I mean, if I say to him, like, if you're not potty trained, you can't go to school, he'll be like, all right. I mean, I want to go to school, but okay.
Right. If I have to make a decision, I mean,
okay. No big deal. Nothing's ever a big deal to Malcolm. All right. So let's get into our heavy topic. Okay, so I am definitely gonna like touch on postpartum a little bit, but not a ton, because I think that it would be worthwhile to at some point actually have a postpartum episode.
Yes.
So this is more of what I want to talk about with what people kind of call, I've heard it called baby blues, or just like, honestly, I've heard people just call it like being a mom. Like this like quote unquote natural anxiety and depression that you're supposed to have on just, being a mom. And I struggle a lot with that mentality, because postpartum is related to your hormones. That's why it gets the distinction between like postpartum depression or anxiety and quote unquote normal depression and anxiety.
Right.
So that is the difference, in case anybody didn't know, of, postpartum versus normal, in a very dumbed down manner.
Right.
We're not doctors. That's
easy.
Exactly. So, I mean, the baby blues I've heard described as just like natural stress of being a parent. I've heard, baby blues described as not connecting to your children when they're born, which, by the way, that's postpartum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I've had a lot of people be like, well, it's just being a new mom and dealing with the anxiety or whatever. And it's like, I think that sometimes we as moms minimize what the word anxiety really means, because it's a very heavy, deep word.
It is. And it's not it's kind of still frowned upon.
Yeah.
To admit and say, I'm struggling.
Yeah. No, for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit, very little bit. There's a ton you can find actually on it. One of the things that I want to say before we start is that I'm going to focus a lot on anxiety during this discussion, because that's currently what I have been struggling with recently. But I'm obviously not a medical doctor, but I really think it's important for me to sometimes, not just me, but all moms, to share their experiences with other moms, because then moms don't feel like they're alone.
Right.
And I mean, it's, especially when it comes to anxiety as a parent, I feel like there's that stigma of, if you get anxious about, getting the kids ready, then it's just because you're a bad parent or you're not prepared correctly or whatever. And that's really not true.
You need to just suck it up.
Yes. That's just part of being a mom. Like, that's really not true.
Right.
So the first article that I am going to read is how to manage How Your Anxiety May Affect Your Parenting by Amy Morin. And it was medically reviewed by an MD. So there are 5 points in this article. So how your anxiety may be affecting your parenting. You do everything yourself. For example, you don't let your kid pack their own bags when you're going places. Now, my examples are going to be highlights of what I do.
I'm like, check. This is already me.
Number 2, you intervene as soon as your child struggles. They can't get their shoes on. Just let me do it.
Right. I was just going to say.
Number 3, you micromanage your child's activities.
Ugh.
They're not doing that art project correctly.
We've discussed this.
I know. This made me cringe. All the cringe.
Yes. Oh, the Play-Doh. Like, stop
Yes.
mixing the Play-Doh. Yellow and blue don't go together.
Mm-hmm. Would it make you feel like stupid if I went and got all of our Play-Doh containers that there's no colored distinction between any of the Play-Doh? They're all mixed together. We'll just plop it right in the middle of the table. Okay. You won't let your child do age-appropriate activities. For example, you won't let your kids climb things outside or play with sticks or bats or stones. Yeah. Number 5, you maintain hard and fast rules. So you keep your kids in a matter of black and white and
gray.
Don't let them have any gray, which is kind of hard for grown-ups. So to put that on little people's like... Okay, so the second one that I want to read is The Mom's Guide to Practical Coping Strategies for Anxiety. The things that I want to hit here is kind of some of the suggestions that they have for coping with anxiety when you're a mom. Obviously, the first one is get help, whether that means medication, finding somebody to talk to, whatever. The second one is create routines. This one is actually like a really big one that has helped me. Getting ready for church Sunday morning is so stressful for me. It's the only time, and I know that like I'm lucky because I don't have to get I don't have to get our entire family ready every day.
Right.
So I'm lucky in that respect. The only day I have to do it is Sunday. Right. I have to make sure all of us are dressed and ready. We all don't look like bums. That my hair doesn't look like I just, rolled out of bed. Exactly. So like it's the only day that I have to do it. And Sunday mornings were the most anxiety-ridden morning for me. So a friend of mine recommended Saturday night laying out the kids' clothes. Because then I don't have to stress about what the kids are wearing. And then I'm just going to put the clothes on them that I laid out. And that is a routine that I've created that has helped so much. Because then I know, because the thing is I always have clean clothes. They're just buried in a pile somewhere.
Right.
So then I'm like freaking out Sunday morning of like, oh my gosh, I don't know where anything is. And ugh.
And then you're intervening with the kids and trying to get them to eat your breakfast.
Yes.
Get off your brother.
Yes. The other thing is get out. So not get out of the house like, create a chore for yourself, get out of the house.
Right.
But make sure that make sure that your diaper bag or backpack is always packed with what you need in it, where if you need to just get out of the house, you can just grab and go. Like we always don't need goldfish crackers and a change of clothes or whatever. Like sometimes I just need to get in the car and drive.
Right.
So if I have like the basic necessities of what I need to do that, I can just grab the kids, grab the bag, and go.
Right.
Honestly, in the summer, I actually keep like diapers and wipes in my car.
In the car. Yep.
Yeah, I don't in the winter because they freeze. And who wants to put a freezing cold pair? Like it's been negative 10 degrees for like 4 days now. Like,
you can't even peel. To
No.
be honest, you can't even peel the wipes apart.
no. But yeah, once it starts warming up, I'm all about that life. Like, I just have diapers floating around the car, wipes in the car, and like I'll have like t-shirts in the car. So if there is an accident, they can just run around in a diaper and a shirt. It's not a big deal. Another one is get outside, because outside, not only do you get the like just go, but you also get the sun, which is the vitamin D.
Yep.
And the other thing is to communicate with your body and brain. And part of that's just realizing what your triggers are and what your like warning signals are. Like me, if I start like getting really angry, then I know like I need to chill because I'm about to like freak out. So, these articles are going to be available in our show notes, which are actually going to be available for our Patreon donators.
Yay.
So, if you would like access to these articles, I will post the link in our show notes, which will be available for our Patreon donators. All right, Michelle, give me your anxiety woes as a mom.
Well, I know we already discussed this the last time we met up, that I really just, I had to come to terms with myself. I mean, I've struggled with anxiety and even depression in my past, and my goal is to not always have to be on medication and rely upon that. So I've done a lot of work of trying to regulate myself, but then to also just be honest with myself and say, enough is enough.
Yes.
And so
and that's so strong of you to actually get to the point where you're like, okay, well, I've been doing this on my own for a little bit, but you know, it's not working. So I need that help.
Right. And unfortunately there still is that stigma of if you reach out for help, you know, and even parents can be like, well, hey, I went through that same stuff, you know, you just gotta do it. I'm like, well, I don't know.
Isn't that so funny when parents are like, I'm going to be really unsupportive in my supportive comments to you.
Right.
It's like, thanks, Mom.
I'm going to go back to my bedroom and pull my blanket back up over my head. But just very recently within the last month, and it has had to do with, I have felt like a buildup to it, and it came with high blood pressure. And so I finally had to have the discussion with my husband saying, hey, I know you're not like super cool about medication, but I think it's time we try, not we, but I try to do something. And so we had a really good discussion, because I have been on medication before that just makes me want to be in bed like all day.
Yeah.
And that's not cool when you have a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. And so we talked about it, about what I can talk to the doctor about and everything. And so he was all for me actually talking to the doctor and getting some help. He just wanted it to be the right kind of help, which I can't fault him on that. I mean, at least he's being supportive, but he also understood and saw that like my blood pressure was astronomical. I mean, to what I felt was astronomical, but like I could feel the tenseness in my body and just like I was always on. But I did also sit down and talk with our assistant pastor's wife, and I'm probably going to end up going and getting some counseling too. And just because, as I said, I've done a lot of work of trying to self-identify stuff, you know, so that I can try to prevent. So I know like what a lot of my problem is, and it's just a lack of control for me. And I mean, we just came out of 2020, like at the end of 2019,
which was the worst.
Yeah. And we've discussed this in one of our previous episodes of at the end of 2018, Joe got sick and was in the hospital. He had stopped breathing on me. And then we launch into the pandemic and just media, and then the Black Lives movement, and then there's the political stuff. Right. I mean, just all of this stuff.
Let's dump all the bad in 2020.
Right. All this bad stuff came up. And literally it was like November that I could just start to feel like this entire tenseness in my body at all times. And so I sat down and I thought, this is really just about control. I'm trying to control all of this stuff, and to some of it I can't. So some of it is recognizing it.
Yeah.
But even though you recognize it, your brain is still like,
you still have to deal with it.
Right. So I am going to end up, I think, just doing some regular counseling sessions just to kind of talk out my feelings, which is not terrible. It's so nice to just talk to somebody and hear somebody say, your feelings are very valid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and actually one of the nice things that has helped me is that when I talked to our assistant pastor's wife, Sister Cammie, she said, Michelle, she said, a lot of these thoughts that just invade your head, are you thinking them? Are these your thoughts? Would you just sit down? And I'm like, no, I don't want to think about dying, but it's on my mind because like now my blood pressure is way up here and we're still dealing with some of this pandemic stuff. And I'm thinking, what will happen to poor Joe if something happens to me? So no, these aren't, I don't want to live every day thinking about that. She said, you need to just tell yourself, these are not my thoughts. You need to go away.
Yeah.
And she says, and you just keep repeating it until it's gone.
Yeah.
And it actually legit works. I was like, I could have been telling myself to just shut up all these years.
That's hilarious.
So, but I have really worked hard at just stopping and saying, I need help, or I can do this, or just finding ways to cope. But I think the important thing is recognizing when you can't do it on your own anymore.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. So I'll go into my fantasticness of a story after this short break. Hello, this is Melissa. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is a page that you can go to and give us a monthly donation as you listen to our podcast, and you can get bonus content such as getting episodes early, getting bonus episodes, and a bunch of other things. Eventually, we'd like to do some t-shirts and so much more. So if you're interested, no pressure, you can go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/messybunmamas podcast. Again, that's patreon.com/messybunmamas podcast. In a fitting manner, there is a coffee membership, a cold brew membership, and an espresso membership. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on that page, and thank you so much for listening. All right, we're back. So it is 3 to 4 months after like I had probably my worst non-postpartum anxiety since I have been an adult. I was in a place with a ton of people and I had an anxiety attack, panic attack. I know that there's like a difference, but I mean, for the sake of this conversation, we're just going to call it an anxiety attack. Mm-hmm. So I had an anxiety attack. I was with my entire family. I went out to the car and I was just like trying to breathe. And like my husband actually, I don't know that he's ever actually seen me have an anxiety attack. He comes out and he struggled with anxiety too. And he like held my hand and he was just trying to get me to breathe. And like when I wasn't like letting go of my breath smoothly and I was like shuddering as I breathed out, he was like, okay, well, that's not going to do it. Breathe again. And he was like just holding my hands and breathing with me as I'm just like basically sobbing in our car. It was like it was such an intense moment of just like
Him being
sincerity. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like I don't think that he's ever seen me that way because I haven't had anxiety attacks like this since I was a late teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm like, you know, kind of right next to my late 20s right now. So it's, you know,
been a few years.
Yeah, it's been a few years. So he was like in the car with me as I'm just freaking out basically, and he's breathing with me and holding hands or whatever. So finally he calms me down enough where I can like breathe. And my heart is still racing.
Mm-hmm.
My entire body, my skin is tingling and like crawling. And so he goes back in with the kids, and thank God for Belinda because she was there and she was like had all the kids. But
super Belinda.
Right, super Belinda. And so he went back in, and at that time I was like, okay, like I need comfort. So I like went to the gas station right up the road and I bought like a ton of like super carby foods. And I ate all of them and it kind of like calmed me down a little bit.
Sure.
Not a lot, but it gave me like a little bit. So I stayed out away from them, let them finish up. They came back in the car. My husband drove home. And so that was at 11 o'clock. My heart didn't stop racing for 28 hours after that. My skin was still tingling. My heart had stopped racing, but like I almost felt like pressure on my lungs and my chest constantly all day, every day. And I got to the point where like I almost agoraphobic. Like I didn't want to leave the house because I was anxious. If I did leave the house, like I didn't dress in a manner where I could get out of my car.
Right.
I didn't want to like shower because I was just like I don't want to have to go anywhere. And to me it's like, well, if I'm not clean, I'm not going to go.
Right.
So it was bad. Like, and not only was it depression, but this was like the worst anxiety I've ever felt. It got to the point where I pretty much wasn't sleeping. I was like binge eating all day. I was drinking like to the point of intoxication every night just so I could sleep because I couldn't calm down enough to sleep. Right. And I'm still working. Not only am I working, but we have 4 kids. Right. Not only do we have 4 kids, but oh, by the way, it's the holidays.
Right.
So
no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. So like it was a mess. And like, not that I'm saying this for like a poor me sort of thing, but I feel like this is a scenario that most moms go through. And it's just like, it was terrifying.
You actually described how I felt at the point where I said, I need to go to the doctor. I mean, you very eloquently just described, like, all I could say is I couldn't breathe. I was sitting at home with my son by myself and I couldn't catch a breath.
Right. And that just seems like so ridiculous to say because like, this is my safe space. This is my home or whatever. But like, I couldn't fill my lungs if I took a deep breath.
Right.
And like my skin was like it was horrible. And so we actually like my mom was like, now keep in mind it's the holidays, okay? I did get our tree up, which I was so proud of myself because like it took everything in me to get the tree up for my kids. And it was I was so grateful for it after I did it. But like during this time, I barely cleaned our house. I barely cooked. Like I was literally just living off of junk food and like alcohol just to try and calm myself.
I said it to a friend yesterday. Medicate yourself.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it got to the point where Mike and my mom were kind of like, okay, well, I feel like we kind of need to take care of this. Okay, fine. So I'm not big on like, I'm actually really grateful for Corona because I don't have to go into the doctor. I can just email them and like maybe set up a virtual appointment. It's not a big deal one way or the other. But so I had 1 to 2 appointments a week with them trying to figure out some medication that would work for me or whatever. So now I'm medicated. It kind of is reducing the tingly feeling and but not really.
It's still there, right?
Yeah, but I'm exhausted now. So now I'm exhausted and sleeping, but still anxious. Thanks, guys. So we got through 4 medications, and I actually ended up having to go on like a benzo in order to just like cleanse myself enough where I could like calm down. They gave me like a 10-day prescription. I ended up not even taking all of it because I didn't need it, because it was like as soon as I felt clear-minded enough to like get a hold of my emotions and my anxiety, and obviously this doesn't work for everyone. This is how it helped. This is what happened to me. As soon as I was clear-headed enough to like take control of my thoughts and like my feelings, I was able to like get myself together, and that's like all I needed. I just needed that help. So it's been like probably, I don't know, like 6 weeks. I don't know. During this time, I struggled a lot with, like just everything. It was just horrible. And there was a point that I actually like prayed, and I had what I would call like a very like supernatural experience of just like where I felt my anxiety just whoosh out of my body. And I mean, that mixed with the medication that I was on trying to manage it, it was just like, it was so cleansing. So when I say that I get anxiety, I get being a mom is like a lot, like I truly thoroughly mean that. And I am still, I know it sounds horrible to say, like, I didn't do the dishes for like 3 months. I was making it on laundry, like literally.
You were surviving.
I was surviving. Yeah. And the thing is like I've said before, like Mike takes care of our kids and he does a really good job. And when I'm basically incapacitated, he's also got to worry about and take care of me now.
Right.
So like I'm standing in the kitchen, like chugging cups of alcohol, and he's just like standing right next to me, just like looking lost, because like, of course you're lost. Like,
right.
I mean, obviously.
How do you approach this?
Yeah.
With your spouse. Sure.
Yeah. And then like, it was so funny because my doctor's like, so what you're doing is kind of alcoholic tendencies. I'm like, thank you. Right. I didn't realize that.
How much am I paying for this position?
I appreciate the assistance you're giving me.
Googled that. Thanks.
Right? It was just so funny because the way she said it, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, that's literally the only way I can get any sleep. So, like, and the thing is, like, I'm not a big drinker.
Right.
So, like, I know in my head, standing in my kitchen and chugging 3 White Claws, like, probably not the best thing to do. But, I mean,
you needed that release.
I had to sleep.
Right.
So yeah, it was the worst anxiety-ridden time that I've had as a parent. And it was rough. And I not only like did I get through it with, doctor's help and God's help, but honestly the people around me were helpful too. Like there were times that I texted my mom or I called my in-laws and I was just like, I need you to take a child. Just one. Please just take them. Like I can't. And like I said, I can't imagine as a spouse how it was for Mike to have to deal with that situation as well. Because in the moment, I had no empathy or sympathy for him whatsoever. Like, I'm dealing with this. Like, I don't care how it affects you.
I still, Dan, do you think you're over this? Is it my turn to have something? I'm like, no, dude, we're still working on it. So I get it.
But like in hindsight, I can kind of like understand how it was like rough for him. But like in the moment, like the last thing I'm worried about is you.
Right.
Like I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I can't, like, all I'm doing is eating, which by the way, I gained 40 pounds.
I understand.
I mean, at least it was during the holidays. So like you have like super good food.
Right.
I feel like food is like exponentially better during the holidays.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely
add
rough.
On top of all of that you recognize that you're not in a good spot and that you have these little kids, little people that you're taking care of, and it just adds more
pressure
to what you're already feeling.
Right? If I only had to worry about myself, I feel like it'd be so much easier to move past it.
Right.
But when you have other people relying on you, it's like, and not even just people, but like even if you have animals, even if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, even if like you take care of somebody else or, you're involved in like activities or whatever
that you cancel out on because you can't get yourself out of the house.
Yep.
And I completely understand. It's to me that I think that was the hardest part, is going to bed every night thinking to myself, I was a junk mom today.
Yeah.
I was a junk wife today.
Yep.
I canceled out on this friend. I mean, just I get that. It adds to everything you're already feeling, and it's like, how can I get out from underneath this?
Right. And it's terrifying. It's so scary because it's like you don't even know when you're in it, it's so, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no feeling that it's going to be over because it's just like there's something wrong with me, and then you get into these like crazy like thoughts of just piling on top of each other of negativity, and it's just ugh. So, I mean, obviously these tips that we gave from these articles are for everyday anxiety, and like I was obviously describing like my extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But I deal with anxiety every day as a mom. And I will say that all 5 of these things, you do everything yourself. You intervene as soon as your child struggles. You micromanage your child's activities. You won't let your child do age-appropriate activities, and you maintain hard and fast rules. This is me as a mom.
It's about control.
Yes, exactly. Like I have such a problem with controlling and micromanaging my kids. And I chose this article of the thousands of them that are out there because this spoke to me so much, because I never really looked at it as I do this because of anxiety. You know what I mean? Like it's just never really clearly distinguished itself that way. But maybe that's what it is, because it seems pretty fair.
It gives you a sense of control over your life.
Yeah.
And I totally get that.
When it's so hard to have control over kids, like how do you control a 3-year-old and an 18, even a 7-year-old? How do you, I mean, let me tell you, I can't control my 18-year-old. Believe me. But it's just, it's been, yeah. If you have anxiety as a mom, I guess whatever step you are in the thick of the anxiety, I guess you're not alone. Take a deep breath. You know, we all go through it. We will all get through it. And, you know, if you find something that works for you, do it.
I said this to someone just last week that was asking me about it, because I'm still in the mode of fixing out my medication to kind of level things out.
Yeah.
And so
you go from like really high to really low.
So I still have that anxiety build up in me that just, I mean, like a couple weeks ago when we recorded, I literally had to pull my car over on the way here to meet you because I couldn't catch a breath.
Yeah.
Stepping out of the house made me that anxious. And I'm like, this is Melissa. I know Melissa. You're going to be okay. She doesn't care how you look or anything. And so I get that. And I said to my friend that was asking me some questions, I'm like, you know what? You do what you have to do and don't let anybody tell you that it's wrong.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest piece of advice, is you're always going to have someone standing behind you saying, don't do it this way, because they want to say, you can do it naturally, or this, or don't be afraid of doctors. Don't be afraid of medication. Don't be afraid of going to see a counselor. These things can help. But if you want to do it another way,
don't be afraid of essential oils. Don't be afraid. Yeah, exactly.
If I mean, I love essential oils. I mean, my diffuser is going a lot because scents help calm me. And so, I mean, you do what you feel is necessary, but in the end, you have to be honest with yourself and say, is this helping me? Is it enough? For not just for others, but for myself, I need to go get help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was fun.
Very deep. I actually feel very emotional right now.
All right. So we are going to go into our suggestions. All right. So Michelle, do you want to give your recommendation first?
I sure do. So we were introduced to somebody else who does a podcast, and I listened to some of his podcasts, and so I want to actually recommend these. They're like little short stories that he writes, and then he tells the stories, or his son will narrate the stories. But it's called Musings and Other Nonsense. Children's Stories, Poems, and Songs. It's by Peter G. Reynolds. All of the podcasts are super short. They're like 2 to 5 minutes long, but they're just like little short stories. They're super cute. And I'm like, I can see me using this like on our car rides to church or something, just to occupy Joe with little cute stories. So that is my recommend for this week. It's Musings and Other Nonsense, Children's Stories, Poems, and Songs podcast. You can find it on all the platforms that we're on, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and a couple of others. So.
All right. So we will definitely link that podcast in our show notes, as well as when this episode posts. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, it was very good. I would be interested in interviewing him someday, just because they're cute little
Yeah.
stories. So
So this episode is being posted in March, which I don't know if everybody knows this, but March is Women's History Month. So you're gonna get my movie recommendations that are empowering for women or for girls. So the first one that I want to recommend is, I'm sure most people know the story of Helen Keller.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, have you seen the movie, The Miracle Worker?
I have not.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the version that's from 2000, not 1962.
Okay.
Obviously.
Right.
If you like old movies, that's great. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah.
So The Miracle Worker is about the teacher, which is Anne Sullivan, and Helen Keller, who was deaf, blind, and mute.
Mhm.
It is a very empowering movie. So I know that everyone wants to be like, yeah, Helen Keller, like she was deaf, blind, and mute, and she did like so many things in her life. Absolutely. But like Anne Sullivan, to me, is such a great example, like that I can't wait to show my kids, because it's such a strong example of resilience and being faced with impossibilities, of teaching somebody who can't see, hear, or speak to communicate in any way. Like the strength of that woman.
She was the wind beneath Helen Keller's wings.
Right?
Helen Keller wouldn't have been without her.
Exactly. But does anybody know her name? Not really.
Honestly, I did not either.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I said, I don't want to minimize like Helen Keller's accomplishments. Like, absolutely not. But I think that this movie, when I watched it, I was just so impressed by Anne Sullivan. Like, it's just amazing. Like, there's this scene where like everything that she's been teaching Helen Keller just like snaps, where she realizes. So what she does is, I don't know how in depth we're gonna go with this, but you're gonna get my vamp, and I'll edit it out if it's too much. So she was doing letter sign language into her hand, like she was sticking her hand underwater, and then she was pulling it out and signing WATER in her hand, and then sticking her hand underwater or whatever. And she was very big in like setting consequences for Helen, and making her do certain things. So in this fictional scene, Helen Keller got angry. I mean, she's like less than 10. I mean, I don't remember how old she was, and she dumped out the water that was in the jug. So Anne Sullivan was like, okay, well, you're going to fill up this water. So they go out to the water pump and they're pumping it. And she's just like getting angry, throwing a fit. Like she was a super misbehaved kid, understandably so.
Right. But she struggled to communicate.
Exactly.
Right.
So she is sticking her hand underwater and writing out water in her hand, signing water in her hand, putting her hand underwater and doing it. And all of a sudden it like clicks in Helen Keller's mind, and she drops this jug and it shatters everywhere. And they're just both running around. Like she touches the grass and she signs grass in her hand. And it's such a monumental moment of accomplishment for Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan, of just like, it's such an empowering thing. So that is my recommendation.
What was the name of it again?
It's The Miracle Worker.
The Miracle Worker.
It's from 2000 and it is a Disney movie.
Okay.
And it's got that little girl. I don't know if you remember, like early 2000s, there was that cute little girl with the brown curly hair and the dimples.
I probably would remember if I saw. Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. So it was great. So everybody should watch it. So that's my recommendation. If you would like to chat with us or follow us, we are on Facebook at
Messy Bun Mamas Podcast.
Instagram